to even speak about Nintendo, right? There was a lot of people that had a lot of what I felt was kind of unfair critiques for the Nintendo Switch 2 announcement of like, that's it? It's just a more powerful, bigger looking Switch? And I'm like, well, think about it from Nintendo's perspective. The last time they tried a gimmick, their console flopped literally as a generation. The Wii U was a unquestionable loss for Nintendo. The last time they tried to gimmick y'all. So
yeah, but I could tell the Wii U was the Wii U was just an add-on system. Like it should have always been the Switch.
Right. So again, they bounced back with the Switch, and it's like, while I do think that yes, maybe they played it a little bit too safe, right? So I watched Kind of Funny Games a lot, and they were like, it would be dope if they called it the Super Nintendo Switch. I'm like, that's a 10 times better name than the Nintendo Switch 2. But I get it. You want mom and dad to be able to be like, oh, this is the better version of this. I get it. I get we're into numbers. Numbers matter when it comes to branding. But I mean, Super Nintendo Switch isn't that much of a stretch. Just saying.
It's not that much of a stretch, and you go back to the traditional colors.
Right. Or at least release a traditional color variant, right? Which
you would have won. Look at how much the Sony PlayStation exclusive.
Right.
Oh,
and people paid for it.
Going crazy.
Yeah.
I almost bought it. Because I could have. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, well, I'm never going to get this controller like this again. I'm just going to leave it in the box.
Right. But then you thought about that. Like, for me, I thought the same thing, but I'm like, it's a controller, controller made to play games that I won't play games on, that I paid the price of a game for. I'm not buying this. Like,
and knowing when the next version is about to come out, why I even, like, it's right there.
Yeah.
We're in 2024. We just got to wait 1 year. Next year, well, you got to wait 2 years. It's coming out as soon as we blink our up. It's already out.
Before we get there, let's click on the Switch for a second. I think when it comes to the Switch 2, I could see a world where Nintendo starts to launch accessories, right, with the Switch 2. Like, hey, here's a Bluetooth steering wheel. So when you're playing Mario Kart 9, you can, have little Timmy have the Switch dock somewhere, and he's literally driving it wirelessly from, the dinner table or whatever the case may be. Here's whatever for the reintroduction of Switch Sports or whatever the case may be. I could see them doing that, but I just think like we're getting to a point where, just like everything else, right? Same thing with TVs, right? At a certain point, your eye can't see the difference between 4K and 8K. It's just like these colors just look better, right? That's not going to justify why I spent an additional $600 for better colors, unless I'm that kind of viewer, right? So I think with a Switch, with an Xbox, with a PlayStation, it's like you're kind of getting to a point of like, which we spoke about before on the pod, like graphics they've kind of hit it. This is it. There's, other than smell-o-vision, there's not really much you could do in terms of visual fidelity that we haven't seen already and seen done well. Naughty Dog is like one of one when it comes to motion capture. You know what I'm saying? Like, those people look as real as you can for some polygons. What else can we do on a graphical standpoint? So I think that is a problem of the industry. I think is not necessarily equipped to deal with it. Of like, what happens now when graphics don't get it done anymore? But as far as the Switch 2, is there anything that you are looking forward to? Is it something that you think you'd be interested in copying? Like, what about it?
I am excited because I no longer have to play a 4 gig device.
That was manufactured in 2016.
That was manufactured in 2016. All right. I don't have to play that anymore. And everything that I buy, I can finally play Bayonetta at 60 frames per second.
With no frame drops.
Across the board.
Mm-hmm.
Across the board. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm hoping it has some power, because you have a lot of competition. The Steam Deck. And the latest version of the Steam Deck is on its way. I can feel it about to drop, and I can feel me about to put that purchase on there.
Well, I think that the thing that, which it's a good point, because it brings up for a good question, right, about Nintendo. Of like, Nintendo, for better or worse, has been able to kind of coast on not having to meet performance expectations, right? It's like Nintendo, like what's written in like the subtitles, like, you know what you got when you signed up with us, right? You signed up for convenience, not frame rate. Like, let's be real. So like, to me, I'm like, even if the Switch 2 doesn't compete with a Steam Deck, doesn't compete with a Rogue Ally, but lapse them in battery life. I think Nintendo will probably look at that as a win. Like, it's not quite PS4 Pro level processing, but we have close to SSD loading times. The battery life is going to last you 10 hours on one charge. Probably not, but I can dream. I think that could be enough.
But I think they also are becoming aware of the fact that was never a good strategy, because we don't have to meet expectations. That's never a good strategy.
No, I agree, right? So so when you're telling me like, hey, I can only play Kingdom Hearts on your Switch through a cloud-based server, I'm like, well, I'm not gonna do that. Like, I have to be connected to Wi-Fi at all times to play this game I just bought from your store. Are you crazy? So you're right in that aspect of like, what were you thinking? This was never gonna work.
Never. You know what I'm saying? So honestly, like, it was never a good strategy, man. Like, that, to me, a good strategy is you making yourself Jordan. That's like a guarantee. You're drawing distance from people, or early Apple. You're drawing distance. Like, y'all, because you can't. You know what I'm saying?
But they've done that though with their software. Hardware, not so much, but software is like, what is the PlayStation or Xbox equivalent of Super Smash Brothers?
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying? What is this? What is their equivalent of Mario Kart? They don't have it.
They don't have it.
Nintendo is lapping them in those categories.
And hopefully they don't drop an open world F-Zero game, because that will destroy. Because that lore, you don't see it now.
No, it's not that I don't see it. I think it's just more so like relevancy, right? Like, I think F-Zero for most people has kind of been relegated to like, oh, it's that world where Captain Falcon comes from. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and then you introduce them to it, and then everybody, oh, you could do it, and they've done it before. I don't see why not. Like, Kirby's world is just as interesting. We don't know everything, but we know Meta Knight come from there.
True.
We know Meta Knight is a problem.
Waddle Doos, yeah.
And those, like, okay, you gonna tell me a Waddle Doo can't compete with a minion? They can. You do the right movie, it's a wrap.
Right.
You mean to tell me the mushroom heads don't compete with a minion? It's already happening, right? They dropped the Mario movie. Boom.
It worked.
Sonic movie to work. Boom. You know what I'm saying? It worked 2 times, right? Hey, we can't get another character to compete with Jim Carrey. Why don't we just add another Jim Carrey? You know what I'm saying? Me too. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, for me, just with Nintendo, I think Nintendo just needs to. If you're okay with being a little bit stronger, you'll be fine. Just don't allow. I don't want to see people, because for me, a Steam Deck is a lot more powerful. I can play Elden Ring on this.
Right.
I'll compromise.
And if I decide to seek the One Piece, I can find a way to play Nintendo games on my Steam Deck.
All I gotta go is to that alley in the corner with the dude who's like, hey man, the Steam Deck OS, hey man, unlocked. What you think, homie? What you want? What you want, man? You want that? Like, yeah, let me get that. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
I just think
they gotta future-proof this console a little bit more.
They have to future-proof this console a little bit more. And they need to bring back other IPs. They have to, at this point, in my opinion, because you don't lose, and you have to. You almost have. These guys are gonna have to come out eventually. So why not start a plan to build them up again? Mm-hmm. That's my thing. That's how I would be thinking if I was a creative. How do I bring back Devil May Cry slowly but surely, and make sure it's the game that I envision it to be? So we can have a healthy ecosystem. Okay, I do want to take my attempt at a live service game. What worlds can I do where I can get the best possible outcome, where I don't kill my staff at the same time?
Right, or the IP.
Where can I build a self-generating ecosystem with this? If I can, why not? Who's my target audience? It won't be adults. It'll be people who have a little bit more time than adults. Children, right?
Right.
Let me build an ism that can't be duplicated. Let me make deals with McDonald's. Hey, if you buy this accessory, you can scan it. Boom. Right? You had amiibos. You had something going until you stopped.
Well, I think that was mostly to do with COVID. Like just production for everything just kind of like it was hard to get your hands on anything that involved tech to any degree. Yeah. Oh, you got to put a chip in here? Woo!
Yeah. So good point. Yeah, that's my whole thing, man. Think. Do you want to do a live service game? Yes, I do. Okay, so what are you doing that's gonna make sense for this to be sustainable? All right, and then can we possibly use this to fuel every other thing that we want to do? Oh, okay, man. We're not running out of budget for this game. Oh, okay. Let's just drop this and make sure this skin is allocated to this finance. Boom. But that's just me, right? It's easier said than done, of course.
Of course.
But we also can bet on these companies not actually coming up with great ideas.
But I think
let's wait for somebody else to do it.
Yeah, and I think and that's what I was saying earlier about, companies like Warner Brothers or companies like, we didn't talk about them specifically, but Ubisoft, right? Or like, I think when you put companies in this position where they've kind of backed their own selves into a corner unintentionally, it's like it either forces you to collapse, right? Which I think, for example, Ubisoft, I think they're so headstrong in what they think they're doing is the right. That's why they're going to fall apart ultimately. But I think if you're smart, when your back is against the wall, you figure out a way to innovate. So I feel like now that essentially every big game publishing company has like taken a hit, like a serious hit this generation, I think it's going to force their hand of like, you guys have to get creative again. You've literally exhausted every other option for yourselves.
Yeah.
You've spent literal billions on something that didn't pan out. So what's going to get you back to the good graces of the player base? Because I said it then and I'll say it again. Y'all launching the next generation of consoles, if this console generation keeps up the same way it has, is going to be even worse for you. You thought the PS5 Pro underperformed. Your PS6 is going to be dead in the water. Because what happened with a lot of these previous generations, again, I can only speak for PlayStation, is PS4 into PS5, you're riding the high of Spider-Man. You're riding the high of Red Dead Redemption 2. You're riding the high of Ghost of Tsushima. The high of The Last of Us 2, at least in the way it looked and played. Right? People say what they say about the story, but that gameplay was A1. So you're right. You're coasting on the momentum of like, we did such a good job towards the tail end of this that we've gained the good faith of the consumer. But I feel like this console generation in particular, it's like, again, graphics is not getting it done. You've already nixed loading times, right? So like a faster SSD is not going to get it done. Oh, it loads 5 seconds faster. So what? It's not why I'm buying an $800 console. Like you need now these IPs, like you said, like you got to start putting the pieces in place. Maybe push back your next generation by another year, just so you can get us back on your side again. Because the more news we've gotten, like you said, it's like I'm thinking about joining Tim on Retirement Beach. Of like, why am I even going to try to invest in these next consoles if not for my kids? Like I won't care. We'll still talk about it, right? We'll still like be in these spaces and bigger spaces to talk about things like this. But I'm like, in terms of me actively playing, I'll just be on backlog all day. Because it's like, for what? Where's the incentive? I can't. You've gambled all my goodwill in 2020s, and I don't care anymore. So I guess to kind of close things off with the Switch 2 is there any game like, we're starting to see these quote unquote Super Smash Brother roster leaks already. Is there any games that you feel, I know, take it with a grain of salt, bruh. Take it with a grain of salt. That's what I've seen. I'm like, I don't know.
That's a very expensive game, man.
A very expensive game and very unlikely because essentially you would have to be putting out a game that has less characters than Ultimate, which is not how that works.
Yeah, that's not how it works. Yeah,
Ultimate was Mugen Fighter. You have to keep Mugen Fighter going at that point. But yeah, is there anything, again, Mario Party 9, not Mario Party, Mario Kart 9 is all but confirmed. Is there any other games that you're like, man, I can't wait to see hit the Switch?
Yeah, I want to see what they're going to do with the next Zelda. With this level of technology, we're probably finally getting something where there's actually stuff in it to do with Zelda.
I could see like a Game of the Year edition.
Okay. Where it's added textures and added people. I'll be down for that. As long as there's new missions and
that's what I'm saying. Extra missions, maybe even like an additional playable character. Just something to kind of like incentivize that, because I think they spent like 6 years working on the sequel.
Yeah,
like they pretty much started the sequel as soon as they finished the first one, and it's like it literally came out once they were done. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know. Do you want to wait till 2030 to play Zelda 3?
That's that. So that I'm just whatever. As long as my games translate the games that I have now, I'll be fine. I invested in some of these games. Metroid Prime 4, of course, is going to be interesting to me. I'll see what new games they drop. Of course, now a lot of the games are going to be I'm glad that Marvel vs. Capcom is going to be. It's going to translate well, so that's going to be a great investment. I'm just excited to see what they'll do. Maybe a return for Donkey Kong Country, Jungle Beat 2, whatever they decide to do. These things are up in the air, but it's not off the charts. All of expectations. Mario Odyssey 2 or 3. I'm excited, man. Yeah, not really much to. Not really. My hopes aren't down. I'm super optimistic. So that's it. That's all I can say. A Star Fox game finally.
A good Star Fox game. Finally.
A good Star Fox game. Yeah, Star Fox.
You got to be very particular, because they've had Star Fox games, but Star Fox games you would want to play is.
The one for GameCube was fire. Star Fox Adventure.
But that's 2001, my brother.
Yeah. I mean, if they bring that game back out, I'll be happy.
I mean, the last Star Fox game they did when they remade Star Fox 64, I was like, no. That's the thing you got to keep in mind. Like Nintendo, their quirkiness sometimes gets in their own way of what if we completely flipped this on its head and did this? It's like, that's not what I wanted. So why? I feel like that's the thing that you always have to you run the risk with them. For me, I think I'm just more optimistic about the hardware specs. I know Nintendo, again, don't necessarily have the best track record with future proofing. So I feel like if they launch this initial Switch 2 without an OLED option, that's a mistake. You know what I'm saying? There's just things like that I would like to see initially of okay, you guys are not relying on the same bag of tricks of we're going to drop the Switch 2 and then drop an OLED 2, 3, 4 years from now. It's things have changed. You need an OLED.
It better be OLED.
Or at least an OLED option for sale. I'll pay the extra $100 if I get the OLED. Me too. That OLED wonders, bro. Have you ever seen an OLED Switch and a regular Switch? It is night and day. So that's kind of where I'm at least for the first year of let me see that Nintendo has thought this through, rather than we did what we could, where Nintendo deal with it that.
That's exactly what I was saying. That strategy works until it doesn't, because other people are doing what you should be doing.
Yes.
So that's and you guys knew pressure was on you when you saw people actually purchase a Steam Deck. It costs how much? It costs $300 and what dollars for entry, and it's stronger, more powerful.
Yep, I can tweak the specs. I can Monkey D. Luffy my way into your games. Hey,
and is that Final Fantasy Rebirth on there?
It is on the go. You say? I think I will.
Yeah. So it's I mean, you better.